Hey fellas, real quick, I just wanted to let you know this video is kind of long. It's about 20 minutes long. It's a little rambly. I think it's a really interesting discussion about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and art in games and what it means to be an auteur and the Hauser brothers. And so I wanted to just kind of put it all out there and not chop it up too much. You'll see some places where I'm talking to people, but the chat didn't get on the screen. And so it's like, who's he talking to? That's people in the chat. Most of them did not agree with me, so it was a really fun conversation to have. And then you'll also see times where we were jumping back and forth between San Andreas and Forza 5, just because we were still talking while I was using quick resume to jump all over the place. So just want to give you a little heads up. That's kind of what this is you're seeing. Let me know what you think in the comments if you want to see more conversations like this. Hope you're well. I'll tell you something else about this fucking game. Do I think this game is racist? No, I don't. At least from what from my white person's take on it. But do I think that it, you can't, if you're going to complain about cultural appropriation, something about this just feels very much, it's like a couple of white dudes got together and said, let's fucking rip off inner city culture that we've seen in the movies, and it's not really our lived experience. It feels so, like, looking at it now with some time between it feels so it feels so cliche, and it's not bad. It just feels it feels like, did anybody call this out when this game was originally out, that it would just kind of felt like, hey, I went off and watched Boys in the Hood and New Jack City and whatever, and I just sort of made a game that was that. Mr. K, you're not even listening to what I'm saying. Mr. K says, Jaffe, stop. I know 7 guys that are this protagonist to a T. That's not my point. I didn't say it was racist. I said it seems to be. It seems like if you're gonna call anything out for cultural appropriation, this may be one of those things, because it's so clearly based on culture that really isn't that of the creators, and it's cribbed right from movies and shit. Couldn't you say that about a lot of war games? No. What are you culturally appropriating from a war game? Cliches are made from. Yeah, again, I'm not, you guys think I'm saying that this is somehow offensive. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not saying it's offensive. I'm just saying it seems like it's pretty much like kind of trying to get the black 90s cinema cred, but you're just kind of copying what you've seen in the movies, or something just feels disingenuous about it, all right? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm fucking saying. But it is nice to be back in this world, man. I really do like playing this game again. It's really cool. I will spend more time with this, although I think now I'm kind of like going, oh, I really probably want Vice City more. You're saying it's caricature stereotype black guys from movies. I'm saying it's not from movies. I don't know, man. I let's put it this way: if New Jack City and Boys in the Hood and gangster rap video culture didn't exist, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas would not exist. I'm sorry. I don't buy that their main inspiration was, no, man, I'm some white British guy, but no, I know that world. And I went to college with John Singleton, the late John Singleton, who was the writer-director of Boys in the Hood. He was the first ever, the youngest director ever nominated for the Oscar. And his whole thing was, this was my life. I grew up in Watts. I grew up in South Central, and I'm making my own personal story. I struggle to believe the Hauser brothers were that honed in on the inner city West Coast black experience before those movies came out. That's all I'm fucking saying. I'm not saying it's not based in reality. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the reality that it's based on is from people that were telling their stories, like John Singleton or was it Mario Van Peebles or whatnot. It wasn't the Hauser brothers' reality. And again, I'm not shitting on the game. I'm just saying that when you play it after what, decades away, and you look at it with fresh eyes, it's shocking how cliche it is, and just how unoriginal its take is, given that its take seems primarily a take based on movies that the people who made it have seen. You guys are, yeah, I'm arguing. I think you guys are, first off, fuck you in Discord. Jaffe's never been to the hood. I went to school in the hood. I saw my first dead body in South Central, and I had the car in front of me in South Central. When I drove into fucking South Central to get one of my friends out of the riots, they had their fucking windows shot out literally, 5 yards in front of me while I was driving. So go fuck yourself. That's A. B, couldn't you argue it is a satire of America's obsession with that culture? You could only argue that if there was something in the game that made it clear, or at least hinted that it was self-aware, but it kind of doesn't feel that way to me. It might to you. Ricardo says, of course it's not their experience. I don't see a problem. It's again, it's not that it's a problem. It's like, let's cancel it. It's more that it is so on the nose that after you've been away from this particular game, and I haven't played San Andreas, the last time I played San Andreas was probably, a month after it shipped, which I don't remember what year that was. And so to come to it 15 years later and, riding the bike and having the guy with the pork pie hat and the big fat, best friend and all that stuff, it's dripping with cinematic cliche. I'm not saying it's bad. Kyle says, not that you're wrong, but you're selecting this one because it's about black folks. No, I'm selecting this one because it's the one I'm playing today. I would imagine, I don't think Grand Theft Auto 3 would feel that way, but I imagine Grand Theft Auto Vice City would feel that way, and I imagine Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5 would feel that way. Like they want to be a Coen brother movie or a Scorsese movie. But the only San Andreas is the only one that's out today on Xbox Game Pass is why. So that's why I'm referring to this one. 3 is a reference to mob movies. I never got that, but I mean, I didn't play a lot of 3 as much as I played the other ones. So I know plenty of people of color who could relate to many elements and felt happy they could see things in their lives. Good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's striking how cliche it is after time away from it. That's all I'm saying, fellas. I was in LA during the riots. You goddamn right. My friend, who ended up marrying a pretty famous comedian, she called me. She lived downtown at the time. I lived over around Culver City, which is by where Sony Pictures is. And she says, hey, can you come pick me up? And I'm like, why? And she's like, it's getting really bad downtown. And yeah, it was something, man. I was watching all the shit getting windows broken, buildings set on fire. Like I said, the car in front of me getting shot. Even what was Singleton's second movie was Baby Boy. And it had, I forget who the main character was in that, but he was on the bike like this. And I'm not saying it wasn't sort of part of the culture. I'm just saying it's weird. Yeah, Vitaphone, I hear you, but if you're going to explore it, then explore it with a unique angle of that experience, just like the movies have to. The movies don't get a free pass. After John Singleton comes out and makes Boys in the Hood, there's only so many of those movies that can come out before people start saying, you're just kind of doing that tropey thing, right? So the idea of somebody, whatever race they are, growing up in a environment, let's just take South Central. That's awesome to make a video game out of that. But if you were in a creative writing class or you were in a movie pitch, they would say, okay, that's cool, but you're just doing the same shit we've seen before. Why is your story unique? Why is your story special? And that's all I'm saying. This doesn't really seem to have it. You have to tap X to run? I just don't agree with you, Kyle. It deserves the same scrutiny when it came out, but it didn't get it. Guys, look, I'm not going to give this a fucking free pass. You can give it a free pass if you want to. But frankly, I think that's the problem with video games, is that video game creators are able to basically rip off movies left and right and get the same accolades for basically making an interactive version of what they've seen in a movie. But if you ask a movie maker to do that, they would be like, oh, this is cliche. You need to come up with something fresh and come back to us. I mean, that's just, we ask the same thing from other mediums. In video games, it seems like we're just willing. Yeah, but that's a mechanic, Vitaphone. When Max Payne nailed the landing on bullet time, all while referencing The Matrix. That's a play mechanic, though. Max Payne felt more like noir. It did not feel like a Matrix thematic ripoff. All I'm saying is, I mean, I don't know why games are not held to a higher standard. I think they should be. Kyle says, I'm not giving it a pass. I just don't think you acknowledge how much this game did compared to what was out. It went a mile ahead. Now it seems rough. In what way was it light years ahead? I don't know why. Look, I don't know why you're even defending it. You can't really defend it. You just can't. This game exists like pretty much all that. Let's put it this way. The Hauser brothers, as much as I know they've done amazing things for games, and I'm not taking the piss, or I'm not, certainly more successful and talented than I ever was. I'm not knocking these guys. But they have never made a game, maybe Bully. Other than Bully, I can't think of a game they've made that would exist if it wasn't for them ripping off movies. Having an entire game with a black lead in an urban environment, but that's not what we're talking about, though. I mean, that's them going to, and look, I only know this because I did it too. I'm not above this. I did this with Twisted Metal Black. Okay, I stood on the shoulders of Seven and Jacob's Ladder, and Fight Club, and the press claimed, my vision equivalent at the time. And I knew that was bullshit at the time. I'm like, if it wasn't for Seven and all that shit, there would be no Twisted Metal Black. Kyle, maybe you don't understand my point that it wasn't original enough. It was the fact that it basically, you're not wrong that in a video game, you didn't see a lot of African-American characters in an urban city environment. Absolutely. Fine. Great. And that's wonderful. I think that's great. But that was them looking at movies that were popular, that had a lot of street cred, and they said, we want to make a game that feels like that. And nothing's wrong with that. But I do take issue when people put a game like San Andreas, toe-to-toe with the great 90s, inner city black cinema, when all they're doing is basically making the shit that they saw on the screen. Legends, you're talking about something different than what I'm talking about. I'm not, again, Legend says sandbox and interacting with a sandbox and black representation, whether good or bad, at a time when there was no representation. No one is taking that away from this game. No one is shitting on this game at all. I'm not talking about that at all. If your point is all it did was copy genre picks and games should be more original, I agree. That is my point. My point is games don't have to do it, but if they don't do it, then I think the press should not be celebrating them as some sort of visionary of storytelling. Or you understand what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, I enjoyed The Last of Us 2 a great deal. I loved it, actually. But, there's a lot of people who rightly so say, that's the road. Right? I mean, there's a lot of games that do that. You see a big hit movie and everybody's all about it, and then suddenly, or a TV show, and then suddenly you see it spreading into games. And all I'm saying is, while, that's going to happen with anything that's successful, it would be nice if games more frequently were the ones to plant the flag of the creative vision to begin with that other people were riffing on. But instead, it seems like we get you're an artist pat on the head simply by ripping off their shit. Don't you think the Housers are visionaries in a sense? I know you haven't played past Red Dead 2. Story is amazing. It's not innovative. It's the best executed. Well, then how are they visionaries? Do I think they're visionaries? I don't know, but I think they obviously are incredibly successful, and they give the audience a wonderful product. Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2 had come before, and there had been sandbox games before, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not taking the piss away from the Houser brothers. I think they're amazing at what they do. I just think that there's a certain type of credit they should get, and there's a certain type of credit we should go, they're not the Scorsese of video games, right? If I were to pick the Scorsese, okay, because ask yourself what that really means. Scorsese's a guy who has a mastery of the filmic language, who takes his own upbringing in New York and Catholicism and being raised Catholic and his struggles with that, and he puts a lot of that into his movies and his love of cinema. Making a video game that looks like a Scorsese movie doesn't make you the Scorsese of video games. It probably makes you, the B-level generic director of video games that looks at movies that are hits and says, okay, I can give you that. I can rip off Spielberg. I can rip off Tarantino and give you kind of something for that. But the Scorsese of games, somebody who really puts, maybe he doesn't make enough games yet, but maybe Ken Levine, maybe Ken Levine would be the Scorsese of games, in that he clearly brings a lot of his own angst and issues to his work. Vitaphone says the audience made the Housers what they are. Sure, they absolutely are the Scorsese of games. What does that mean? You're simply talking about subject matter. That Scorsese's made movies about robots, and he's made movies about Jesus, and he's made movies about mobsters, and he's made movies about a dude who gets lost on one crazy 24-hour period of time that has nothing to do with mobsters. What makes the Houser brothers the Scorsese of video games? Just because they make games that are crime centric? I mean, if that's all it takes to be Scorsese, okay, sure, great. But I mean, I think that's short selling Martin Scorsese. No, I'm talking about being an auteur. Okay, but then that doesn't mean he's the Scorsese. I mean, then you can just say they're auteurs, and I would say that's probably accurate. I would oh sure, but that doesn't mean, yeah, okay, yeah. Having a voice in print on everything they do, 100%, no doubt, Vitaphone, I agree with you. But great. That's a wonderful thing to be, and the industry could use more of it. I think Kojima is that as well. But I don't necessarily think that means he's Scorsese. I love Scorsese, says Kyle, and it's a genius original, but you could argue a lot of his movies are committing the same sin as San Andreas. The only reason I would question that is that Scorsese's one of the guys that really invented the template that in later films like Casino and even Goodfellas that he's riffing on. It would be like John Singleton making Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and people saying, well, he's kind of riffing on that. It's like, yeah, but he's one of the key people who invented it. Right? I mean, before Scorsese came along with like Mean Streets and even to an extent Taxi Driver, right? There was not that same gritty urban gangster kind of flavor, was there? Maybe I'm missing something, but Plumbing the Dark Night of the Soul, moral gray complexities. What is morally gray about Grand Theft Auto? It seems pretty on the fucking nose. Who is the Kubrick of games? I mean, you gotta kind of make a list of what it means to be Stanley Kubrick. Obsessive, won't give up until it's exactly what he wants. Doesn't care about being difficult to work with. I'm not gonna say who I'm thinking. Miyamoto, I would say, was an auteur when he was regularly making games. Absolutely. All right, Vitaphone, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for the passionate discussion. Maybe we'll do a call-in show on it, because clearly a lot of people have different opinions. It's good discussion, though. I mean, it's an interesting, at least to me, interesting topic, because I think a lot of times the creators that deserve the credit in the industry don't get it because they don't wear the traditional media sanctioned cloak of artistry and someone who has something to say and visionary. And the ones that do get it because they're riffing on things that have already been accepted as artistic, and they're just making them interactive. And I think that ultimately, harms the media.